Joining us now is the founder of nmpreps.com, Kyle Henderson, who is pumped for this week because it is the first week of high school football in New Mexico. Kyle, how are you doing today, man?
Great, man. It's a wonderful week. You start out Monday and, kind of takes a little while to get to that first Friday, but, we're chugging towards it. There's some big-time games. Happy to talk on the radio today.
Well, yeah, going to be a fantastic week for sure. Let's go ahead and start to look at the big picture, though, to begin with, though. And can Cruces make it a three-peat in your eyes this year? What's your feeling on the Bulldogs? Are they better than last year, worse than last year? How do you feel about them?
I think, in all honesty, they're probably a step back from last year. They've graduated a ton of talent over the last couple of years, but that doesn't mean that they can't make another run. They returned Cameron Miller at quarterback, who led the Bulldogs to the state title game as just a sophomore. And then you're going to hear big things from Isaiah McIntyre. He's probably one of the top 10 players in the state of New Mexico. You're going to see him all over the field. He caught a 70-yard touchdown against Clovis. He also, you're going to see him lined up at running back, replacing J.J. Granado. So I think they're going to be a step back, but that's probably, still a couple steps ahead of everyone else in New Mexico.
Okay, them being a step back, who are the maybe two or three teams you feel like can really challenge them? I'm sure the crosstown rival Mayfield has got to be on that list.
Oh, absolutely. I would say, if you're picking preseason favorites to win the whole thing, you got to go with the Mayfield Trojans. 3-year starter Kavika Johnson's back at quarterback. He's as big time as it gets. He doesn't get a lot of attention, that he probably should, but he's a Mr. Football candidate certainly, and he had a monster season last year. And besides him, Mayfield's got a ton of guys coming back on both sides of the football. Watch for guys like Cameron Mills, Shea Tiemann, and a sophomore that's coming up that's going to make waves. His name is Isaac Vance. You're going to see him all over the field on offense. So Mayfield, they're going to do their thing. And then another team that's probably going to challenge the Dogs is Cleveland. For the last couple of years, the Storm has been in the upper echelon of New Mexico high school football. And this year, they're going to be led by a very strong junior class. If they don't make a run this year, next year is probably their year. Watch for a quarterback by the name of Gabe Ortega, who's, one of the next big things out of the Rio Rancho area. They also got an offensive tackle by the name of Henry Haddis, 6'7", 275 pounds, already has a couple offers under his belt.
Wow, that is, and it just seems like they roll out the athletes one after another up there at Cleveland and Rio Rancho for that matter too. How about an Albuquerque area school? Who's the best of the crop there in the metro area, you think?
Well, last year Valley won 10 games. Remember, they went 10-0 and they wound up winning the number one seed from the seeding committee, and then they got drilled in the playoffs. And I think everybody's expecting Valley to have this major drop off, and I even kind of had them ranked probably lower than I should. But I saw them in a scrimmage recently, and they're pretty salty. They got a great defense coming back. They have some very good offensive linemen, and the new quarterback taking over for Bo Coleman, who was a Gatorade Player of the Year, his name will be Jordan Velasquez. He ripped off 2 big 70-yard touchdowns last week. So, I don't think Valley's going to take too big of a step back. You also have Atrisco Heritage, who's a newer school on the west side of Albuquerque. They returned 18 starters from a team that went to the playoffs last year, including running back Ricky Alvidrez, who's ran for 2,000 yards both his sophomore and junior season.
Well, we only have one 4-star recruit in New Mexico, and that's Zach Gentry. He's, of course, committed to Texas. How are we looking at El Dorado this year? It seems like he maybe hasn't had the team around him over his first couple years up there.
Yeah, and I think going back to the 4-star thing, Zach, he just went to college camps. He didn't really go to any rivals events, and they couldn't really get a good look at him. But I tell you what, if he would have went to any of those rivals camps, he would have stood out, and he would be a 5-star instead of 4. 6'7", 240 pounds, runs a 4.6 40 time. Got to check him out against Rio Rancho, and you're right. I don't think he has the talent that El Dorado has had in the past surrounding him. Honestly, they had, I think it was 3 or 4 drop touchdown passes in their scrimmage against the Rio Rancho Rams. But, head football coach Charlie Dawson really gets those guys to play. Over the years, one of the few teams to play the Cruces teams very tight has been El Dorado. So I think they'll be a middle-of-the-pack type team, but still very dangerous.
We're down here in Alamogordo, and, of course, the Tigers moving into the district with Hobbs and Carlsbad and Clovis, which is just certainly a brutal district. And Hobbs, week 1, they go out to Cruces and play Mayfield. I'm trying to figure out, what should we read into that game one way or the other, if Hobbs doesn't go get the win? Because I think a lot of people feel like they could be a dark horse state title contender this year.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of people are, really excited, and all eyes are on that game. But I wrote something during my preseason preview on Hobbs. I said, don't judge them by what they do against Mayfield and Artesia. Judge them by what they do in the middle of the season against Lubbock, Coronado, and against Goddard. I think, going up against the Trojans and the Bulldogs in week 1 and week 2, props to them for getting those type of teams on the schedule. But I think Mayfield is just going to, kind of have their way with Hobbs, to be honest. I think, Mayfield is one team that really starts off strong, and it's going to take a while for the Eagles to get that passing attack going. Their quarterback is a new starter. His name is Isaac Amaya. He's a dual-threat guy, can make some plays, but it's going to take a little bit of time for Hobbs to really get going. But I think in the end, Hobbs certainly has enough in the tank to make a playoff run.
Talking with Kyle Henderson of nmpreps.com. Kyle, I know you guys got free trials going on the website right now if people want to go get signed up, right?
Yeah, we actually brought a 7-day free trial back through the month of August, so now is a great time to hop on over to nmpreps.com. The promo code is #NMPreps. If you don't know what a hashtag is, it's just the pound sign on your phone. So when you're signing out to check out nmpreps.com for free for 7 days, use a promo code pound or #nmpreps.com.
Let's continue talking about week 1. There's some, I can't remember a week 1 being this loaded with just really, really good matchups. Is there one that if you could be anywhere in the state this week, is there one in particular you'd like to be at?
I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is playoffs preview weekend. Seriously. I mean, and it's funny that it's happening in week 1, but I think we're going to see a lot of these teams play again, come week 12 and 13 of the season. There's just a ton of games. My schedule looks like this. Thursday night, I'll be in Las Cruces to check out the Montwood Rams take on the defending state champs, Las Cruces Bulldogs. Friday, that's still a little bit of a coin toss for me, but likely I'll be in Las Cruces again, double dipping for Oñate and Centennial. I mean, you don't see too many firsts in New Mexico, and that's going to be the first time those two teams get going. Saturday, you have Mayfield and Hobbs. I'm going to be at that game as well. And then I'm going to drive from Las Cruces to Roswell Saturday afternoon to check out probably the game of the week between the Goddard Rockets and the Clovis Wildcats, taking place at the Wool Bowl at 7 p.m. on Saturday.
When you talk about a lot of change in that matchup there, I mean, that's been a rivalry forever and ever, but Sam Jernigan gone. Clovis hasn't quite been Clovis the last few years. What's your feeling on Goddard? Is it any different with Coach Whalen there? And Clovis, are they ready to kind of move back up into the upper echelon this year in the state?
Those are great questions, and I think a lot of those questions, will be answered in the coming weeks between those two teams. I think starting with Clovis, they lose running back Kamal Cass. I mean, last year and the year before, I mean, he was probably one of the top football players in the state of New Mexico, but still, Clovis still kind of like 500 team, but very capable to just beat anybody, They really haven't made a semifinal run in, several years. This year, their running back replacing Kamal Cass. His name is San Juan. I'm not kidding. He's 5'5", 125 pounds, but from what I hear, he's pretty tough. They did lose one of their best players in the state. His name is King Bender. He tore his ACL, so he's done for the year. He was one of those type of like a two-way type player, very dangerous. So that's bad news for Clovis. But across the board, up front, in the trenches, Clovis is massive, probably one of the bigger teams in the state. So let's see how they can play off that this year. For the Goddard Rockets, you're right. They lose, a living legend, Sam Jernigan. I mean, what he's done for New Mexico high school football has been outstanding since really taking over at Goddard, I think, in '89. Every single year, Goddard has been a staple in New Mexico high school football, the state championship. I mean, whether win or lose, they're always there. Mike Whalen takes over, and I don't think that'll be that big of a drop-off considering Whalen's been with Jernigan since '89, I think. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a change initially, but Whalen certainly qualified enough to lead the Goddard Rockets. And speaking with Whalen, he told me, they're used to practicing on Thanksgiving, and that shouldn't change coming into this year.
I want to stick with 6A and a couple other teams. La Cueva, who's had a couple of down seasons, is this the year where they kind of get back into the mix in terms of the state title contention?
I think that's a good possibility. I mean, Brandon Beck, I believe he's going into his second or third year. And, he's really transformed things at La Cueva. I really have to say, I mean, I got to visit with them earlier this year. They returned 9 defensive starters from a defense that was pretty good last year. They're headlined by linebacker Mitch Cantwell, 6'1", 230, 240 pounds, that borderline Division I guy. And they got a bunch of very good skill position players. I'm really excited to see how they take on Atrisco. That game is Saturday at Community Stadium. That's definitely a marquee game.
I've been talking to some people down in El Paso, and Americas travels up to Carlsbad, and Americas a quality team. Carlsbad maybe a little bit of a step back this year. What's your feeling on that game going into this week?
I think that's an excellent game. I mean, over the last, I think since 2005, Carlsbad is 6-7 versus teams from Texas. So, that's right under the 500 mark. This year, Carlsbad replaces Rodney Holcomb at quarterback with Caleb Stevens. And Stevens certainly has some targets to throw to. They got some of the best receiving corps in the state of New Mexico. Travis Kessler is a guy to watch. Also, Shakir Smith, Trevin Ramirez, and Elijah McCoy. So they got all these skill guys, but they don't really have the line that we've seen Carlsbad have over the last couple years. So I think Carlsbad versus an El Paso Americas team is very exciting. Americas, over the last couple of years, they've been pretty tough. I think they're in the top 5 in the El Paso region. So we'll have to see what gets going at Ralph Boyer, but that's a tough game to pick for me.
We're about a month removed from the combine, but coming out of that, who are some of the guys that you really expect to, what you saw there, that you really expect to stand out this season? I know we've already talked about Zach Gentry and Cameron Miller and Kavika Johnson. Who are some other guys that maybe aren't getting the publicity that deserve to get that?
Right off the top of my head, no question about it, Parker Johnson out of Ruidoso. 5'9", 5'10", 185 pounds, and just such a dynamic athlete. I mean, what he's done at Ruidoso since his freshman year is pretty incredible. I mean, he's going to shatter some records this year. He already has, I believe, 15 total interceptions throughout his career. He has over, 4,000 receiving yards. Last year he scored close to 30 touchdowns, just, kickoff returns, punt returns. He's a go-to guy. Ruidoso takes on Roswell in a very interesting game as well. That's this Friday night at the Wool Bowl. Another guy would be David McGee out of Laguna Acoma. 5'10", probably 190 pounds. This kid is just absolutely shredded. Ran for almost 3,000 yards last year, leading the Hawks into the quarterfinals. I think he's due for a monster season. He's a next level guy. I mean, it's probably been a long time since a reservation has sent a player to play Division I football. David McGee certainly fits that mold. Lastly, a guy out of Jail, New Mexico. His name is Clay Adams. 5'10", 230 pounds. He put up 185 pounds bench press wise, 32 times. He rides bulls. He's a linebacker. He's a running back. They take on Seagroves Friday night. I think Clay Adams is going to have a big-time season.
I think that's the coolest thing about the Combine is you get kids from Jow and Laguna that, aren't going to get the publicity of the kids that are in 6A in Albuquerque and Cruces and some of the other places. I'm sure is that one of the things you really enjoy about the Combine?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're always going to be able to, talk about guys from, any sort of metro area in 6A or 5A program. But I think the Combine, it gives an opportunity to all those guys, but to some of these guys that are on the come up that might not get the exposure that a 6A guys get. So, those players I mentioned could certainly play at the 6A level here in New Mexico without a doubt.
We've got Tularosa down here in AAA. Is it Clayton, Santa Rosa this year? Or is there maybe some other teams you're looking at in that class to fight out for the state title this year?
I mean, that classification, no matter if you want to call it 1A, 2A, 3A, whatever, as long as those teams are in there, Santa Rosa, Clayton, Texaco, Hatch, Hatch moved up actually this year, but Dexter, I think, it's always a tough classification to win. Last year, Clayton did it with defense, and then most of those guys are coming back to the Yellow Jackets. They got a very fast running back. They take on West Las Vegas here in week 1. Santa Rosa, they open up with Texaco. Geez, that's like usually a playoff game, and they're playing week 1. So, I think Santa Rosa, they have to be hungry entering the season after losing to rival Clayton in the semifinals, and then you have teams like Dexter and a couple other of those now 3A teams that are going to be very good this year, and that's always a tough class to pick.
Class 4A now. Robertson, of course, went on their run last year and won the state championship. Are they back to compete again, or is there somebody else in that class you expect to be solid this year?
No, Robertson, I mean, those guys are loaded once again. They return all of their linemen, and check this out. They have 2 linemen on their team that are 320 pounds, just 2 monster guys, and then they're moving their running back who ran for 1,500 yards and moving him to quarterback, and they got some other guys in the backfield. The head football coach is Leroy Gonzalez. His son is a junior by the name of Junior Gonzalez, and he will be one of the top receivers in Class 4A. I think Robertson has all the components to certainly make another run again. You got to watch for teams like Ruidoso. St. Mike's, of course, is always going to be in the mix. I think St. Mike's is 35-2 over the last 3 years. Honestly, they don't lose, and they got an interesting game. They're playing Santa Fe, who's their crosstown rival. They're playing them Saturday at 6 p.m. at Ivanhead, but that game is a home game for St. Mike's. Kind of a weird oddity.
Yeah, it is interesting. Class 5A, of course, Farmington last year taking it home. You have them ranked number 1. Do you like them, or do you like some of the other, Goddard or somebody else to sneak in there and win that state title this year?
Well, Farmington, I mean, I believe they only won they won the state title last year with only 22 guys on the roster. I mean, they did it with defense last year too. They only allowed 6 points per game last year and beat Goddard in the state title game 7-0. I mean, that's incredible, right? I mean, so who's coming back this year for Farmington? They got this guy named Avery Rasher who just lit it up at the combine. He's a receiver, defensive back type guy, 4'4", 4'5" type guy, going to return kicks, be a great wide receiver, very good defensive back. They also got a running back. He's 190 pounds by the name of Champ Mendoza, and he put up 185 almost 30 times. So they got a couple guys coming back for Farmington, so I don't think they're going to take that big of a drop-off. Other teams to watch in the class are teams like Belen. I think Belen is probably the favorite this year. They returned all of their linemen for last year, and of course, as long as John Lerma, the head football coach, is there, they're going to continue to compete. Goddard, I think it's going to be the same with Goddard. Artesia should be a step up. Last year they were 4-7, lost to Moyerty in triple overtime, but Bulldogs are back. You got Artesia and Belen Friday night. That's a must-watch game. So, and then the sleeper probably this year in Class 5A, you got to go with Centennial. I mean, they return a ton of guys, and they probably have the best set of offensive linemen in the state of New Mexico, led by a great coach, Coach Aaron Ocampo. They kick it off with Oñate, a very good game.
Tigers open up with the 2 Los Lunas schools to open up the season with Valencia, and then they get Los Lunas High School down here. I've heard a lot of really, really good things about Valencia, and especially their backfield. I don't know, what are you hearing about the Jaguars this season?
Yeah, Valencia's probably right in that 5 or 6 spot, right after some of those teams that I just mentioned. They don't quite have the numbers that Belen or Artesia does numbers-wise, but what they have is speed. I'm talking about 4'4" guys. They got a running back by the name of Josh Burbank, who's already has Division I offers, not to play football, but to run track at Alabama, Auburn, and some other big-time schools. I mean, he'll be their running back, and he's not a track guy. He looks like a football player, and he's going to be very tough to stop Friday night. You also got a kid by the name of Nate Nash, who's very talented, very fast, 4'5". He was our first-team All-State selection this year. They got Kevin Jolly is the head football coach. His son is Nate Jolly, probably 265 pounds. So Valencia is going to be very tough to deal with Friday night for Alamogordo. I think, just shooting from the hip right here, you got to give Valencia the edge going into that one.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of really good things about that program. I'm sure it'll be a real tough one for the Tigers, especially on the road for Week 1. And let's move back up to 6A. Don't want to put you on the spot Week 1, but if you got to do it Week 1, who's your Final Four? I mean, I won't make you pick a state title winner, but who are the last 4 you think will be alive when November and December roll around?
I think you got to go with the 2 Cruces powerhouses, Mayfield and Cruces. I'll throw in Cleveland, and then that 4th spot, honestly, I don't know. Like, if I really knew, if I was really confident, I would throw that 4th team in, but I think that 4 and 5 spot in Class 6A is really up for grabs. I mean, there's certainly a lot of teams that are going to, compete for that position, and, I think there's probably going to be a new team that rises up this year, and, I can't wait for that. But I think 3 out of the 4, Cruces and Mayfield and Cleveland, those teams are going to have a target on their back going in.
Kyle, as always, it's a pleasure to talk to you again. Get on over to nmpreps.com. And again, it's hashtag NMPreps for the 7-day free trial.
Yes, that's correct. I really appreciate the time, Charles.
All right, thanks, Kyle.